You may have first heard of Grecia as the social media presence for the Tony Robbins Tour, as a PA for Marianne Williamson's presidential election in 2020, or as a sub-host of the Gabby Bernstein and Friends event in Sweden. For the last 6 years, Grecia has helped hundreds of clients to reclaim their power, stop people pleasing, and manifest their desired life throughout a powerful blend of life coaching, trauma healing, and spirituality. She has spoken on stages all over the world, facilitated in-person workshops and networking events, and you can now learn lifestyle tips from her every Tuesday morning on NBC 23 and CBS 4 news channels. Grecia has a way of igniting purpose and passion in people's lives, with some of her previous clients having gone on to become well-known TikTok influencers and YouTubers. For those who are ready to stop playing small and build a life they love, Grecia is well equipped to be your right-hand woman. Grecia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm like cheering for myself. I'm like, you did that, girl. You did that.
Nice. Well, I know we have discussed about this. We've discussed about maybe like a week about doing this podcast. Mm-hmm. And it was so sudden. And I'm so glad you're here, because I wanted to ask you, what does a life coach mean to you? Mm-hmm. What does it mean to be a life coach?
Sure. So for me, it's someone who did it first. Someone who did it first, learned from their experience, and is sharing that wisdom, that firsthand knowledge with the people who are like attracted. There's something about me when they see me on social media or they meet me in person, because I'm all over the place. When they see something in me that they want in themselves, right? They can trust that I have firsthand knowledge in their desire, and whatever it is that their desire or their struggle, to be able to get them through to the other side.
So I was really impressed with your bio that I just read. How did that all come to be? Like, did you picture yourself when you were younger, like doing all these things?
Definitely. So that's a huge thing I do with life coaching, is I help people remember what desires we had when we were little. What was our biggest dream, right? Yeah. For me, I would flip through magazines and always saw myself there. I'm like, I belong in these magazines. I belong on the TV. Mm-hmm. Like, and I mean, I was a little girl, little Mexican girl from the middle of nowhere next to Mexico. Right. And it felt like such a huge jump. Like, what? I would question it a lot. I would doubt it a lot, right? Like, but I knew it in my heart that I was meant for big things. I would always say I was meant to be famous, but I didn't want like the famous part to be where there were paparazzis. Yeah. I just wanted to be a little bit famous, right? Yeah. And the desires of our heart, I really believe, are messages or visions of our future if we decide to trust in them. It's that seed that, you know, a greater power planted in us, because it's so unique and so different for everyone. So we get a hint of that when we think back. What did I want to be when I was a child? What really lit me up? And so that seed has now sprouted, right? Got us to where we are now. And this is just the beginning.
and I like that you said famous, because when people hear famous, they think of like Hollywood and paparazzi, and like you mentioned, but there's also another side, and that's like touching people's lives, like being around their life to make a positive change. Like you mentioned, you're a life coach. So there's also that way of being famous. How do you feel about touching people's lives and being that change towards another positive direction? Like, can you explain how that feels?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because when we think famous, there's like a negative connotation to it. For me, what it feels like instead is like you're given the microphone for a higher purpose, like to touch the masses in a different way. And it takes a lot to be able to do that. It's not easy. Like, I'm still constantly in the practice of like, how do I get everything that I learned into a 3-minute segment so that it could be the most impactful for the masses, right? So stuff like that. So when I think of famous, I just think of a bigger platform that I was given by, like I said, the higher power, whatever feels like home to each of us. Everybody's going to feel that differently. Yeah. But to be able to bring a message through that's going to help the masses get out of what we're currently experiencing in the world. A lot of sadness, a lot of darker emotions. We need light. We need illumination, right? And some of us have that. And especially when I find clients that see that in me and they're like, I also have that seed. I want to do what you're doing. How do I do that, right? So being able to help them also bring through a message that's specific to their audience. So special.
And you mentioned also that you were able to be in people's lives and make a change, bring their messaging across. I remember the way that I actually came across you was through a video where you were sharing a bit of your story. What does it feel like to be vulnerable and like put that message out there? Because not a lot of people have the courage to do something like that. Like they keep it in, and they don't really like share that type of insight. How does that feel like to do something like that? And do you feel like you're getting something out of your system, like a big, huge weight off your shoulders, or how does that work?
For sure. Oh my gosh, what a great question. First of all, I'm like, where do I take this? Or so that's a loaded question for me. But I guess I would say, one, it's not easy. I had a lot of resistance. Like anytime I shared anything about my childhood, I would get a lot of backlash. So I had to time and time again decide, is my purpose bigger than this backlash, right? Because I didn't share it because I was just wanting to have fun. Like I shared it because it was such a strong pull I could not shake, right? And it happens like that every time I have a message. I'm like, oh, a message is coming through. My husband knows. He'll tell you, right? Where I'm in the shower and I'm like, hold on, a message is coming through and I have to. It's like something in me is working to be able to share this message.
That purpose.
Yeah, the purpose is there. And I've had to choose that so many times in my life. And it's a practice to be courageous, right? But like I always say to my clients, I say it on TV as well, is like, even if your voice shakes, right? Because sometimes it will, the message that's on your heart is worth sharing.
Of course.
Right? And whatever comes from it, that's not up to us at that point. Of course. Right? So we'll deal with the backlash, but there's a purpose beyond the backlash, right? So even if it's hard for us, which it is sometimes, of course. Right? Yeah. The purpose is so much greater.
So if we can go back in time and picture yourself, let's say maybe like in middle school, and we have career day going on, and future Grecia comes in, and she says, "Hi kids, I'm a life coach." Yeah. And little Grecia picks up her hand and she asks, "What's a life coach?" What would you say to that? Like for those people also that might not know exactly what a life coach is, because it's a term that's been thrown a lot, but it's never been like, this is what a life coach is.
Yeah. So I would say, there's 3 pillars to this, right? At least in my coaching business, I help people find their purpose. I help people stop playing small, and I help them build a life they love. Right?
Stop playing small,
and build a life you love. All of this is reclaiming your power from everything that we're taught, everything that we see in the media, everything that we're told, all the things that make us wrong or bad. It's reclaiming the power from that, following that seed of purpose, moving forward slowly, inching forward. But a lot of times I recommend support, right? Because we can't believe in ourselves alone most of the time. We need somebody else to believe in the vision, to help us move forward and use their network. I often connect my clients with people that I know because I'm very well connected in communities all over the world, of course. Right? So I'm like, oh, I know this person, I know this person. And a lot of us don't have that. So connecting with other people in the community or with coaches, like it gets you further. Right? It gets you so much closer to like that big vision. A mentor. Exactly. Yeah. A mentor.
And one of the things I wanted to ask you that I'm curious about, because like during our own life, we have all these things going on, like family, work, like, sometimes it becomes stress. So I'm imagining one of your superpowers is like when you're talking to people and they're telling you what's going on, how do you like go about, because obviously you care about the person that you're helping, right? How do you deal with like getting that energy from them about the stress that they got going on? Like, how does that, like, how do you do it?
I feel like my superpower is helping to transmute it. I meet them where they are. And so some people that might be a lot of energy, but I feel like like sitting on the ground with them, with the emotion that they're going through and validating that real human experience helps us both stand up together, like holding hands. So
Teamwork.
it doesn't, it's 100% teamwork. We need community to thrive, right? Like we cannot live alone. We need people to be, farming and everybody, we need each other.
Everyone has a part.
Exactly. And I help with the emotional part.
Wow.
Right. So that's what the main thing that I would say for sure is I meet them where they are. I validate that human experience and we rise together. Because if we hold it in, I mean, we're just stuffing it down, and then we can see like physical problems or other just things that happen from holding it in. It's not fun to do that.
Of course.
For a long period of time.
How do you feel that a person has to, I guess that's the wrong way to phrase it. How does one know when they need a life coach?
The first thing that comes to mind is if you come across me and something inside of you is like intrigued. Anytime we have curiosity in our life or inspiration, that's a huge telltale that you need to follow that, right? So inspiration, the word itself comes from in spirit.
Yeah.
Right? So it's following that. Same thing with enthusiasm. If you feel enthusiastic, maybe something that I say today sparks an idea.
Yeah.
Right? Enthusiasm is from the word entheos, meaning from God.
Wow.
So it's like clearly leading you, right?
Yeah.
So anytime you feel inspiration, enthusiasm, or curiosity, follow that.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're watching these videos and you're like, okay, I'm open. I'm open to having a mentor. I'm open to having her as my life coach. You need to also take that action though, right? Like we can only meet you halfway. It takes courage. It takes shaking a little bit, right?
Yeah.
To be like, I'm scared to take that first step.
Yeah.
But the first step is the hardest step. And then after that, I have your back, right? To either decide, is this right for you or not? I have the free call, so you don't have to pay for it at first, or a free PDF to even just get a taste. Like, what is she about?
Yeah.
I have a free PDF on my website. So that gives you a little bit more of safety. Right. Or even just following to say, okay, I have curiosity, but I'm not ready yet. Let me follow her and see what she's about and see if I can build that like factor. Right. And then taking the step, because I can't do that for you.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what does someone do when they become like a client of yours? Like, do you do like in-person meetings, face-to-face, like through phone calls, or what does that look like? Yeah,
so for private coaching, it's Zoom calls. It's very important to do Zoom calls because I get to see my clients on the other side, their body language, right? So something that I'm always continuously learning, practicing on myself is trauma healing, nervous system regulating. And so when I can see that the person on the other side of the screen has shut down a little bit, like their body's starting to slouch, maybe they need a break. Maybe we need to take a little break, do some art therapy, or schedule the remaining 30 minutes for another day, right? So me tuning into how their body's reacting to what we're saying will tell me if what I'm saying is too big of a dream and we need to kind of cut it down into smaller bits to build momentum, to build pride, or if they're leaning forward and they're ready to go, right? Then I'm like, let's keep going.
Nice.
So that's primarily how I do it, is Zoom calls. And then they also have access to me for venting, for celebrating, or just for checking in through voice message support. So it's really cool. They get me as their best friend pretty much, and access to my network and my wisdom, like for the whole time we're working together. Yeah.
So what
it's really fun.
Nice. What does like a person have to do if they want to actually like go ahead and get you as a coach? Do they go to your website or call you, or what do they do?
So on my website, you can schedule that free call. we have to see if we're good fit for each other,
of course,
right?
yeah.
So that's what that free call is for. I help them in that call though to make a plan to live a life they love. So we talk about the challenges they're going through and their biggest dreams and see what's in the way and what's a plan of action we can take to move you forward. And if life coaching is a part of that, I'll let you know. And if I feel like you're good where you're at and it was nice talking to you, we got to hang out for a little bit, which it's rare. People don't really book calls for just hanging out.
Right.
But if you feel like that call that to move forward with your life, to really live a life you love, it's super simple. Go to my website. You just put yourself on my calendar pretty much.
Nice.
Before I get too booked out.
Of course, no.
Yeah.
You recently moved from Austin, right?
I did, yeah.
So what has that transition been like?
Oh my gosh, it's been a lot. I've had so much like of a humbling experience, but it's really brought me down back to my roots and to see myself just a few years ago reflected all around me. So I feel like when I talk on the media, when I talk on the news channels, I know who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
I know where I've been and like bringing that information back, right? I mean, I've traveled all over the world. I've done so many things. So I get to like use that information to bring it back here to my home, the thing that made me, right? And now now that I'm a mom, it's very important to me that my daughter knows the Mexican roots. We go to every single folklorico concert we can.
Nice.
I'm like, oh, there's gonna be folklorico. We're gonna be there.
You're in the right spot here.
Exactly. So we do as much as we can to like to just
educate her
enjoy,
about culture. That's
enjoy what's in our blood.
Nice.
Yeah.
So one of those amazing things that you've done and that you mentioned in your bio is work with these types of people that are like well known. Like, how did you come across like being able to work with them?
Yeah. So one of my coaching pillars is to stop playing small, right? So it's so easy to just be like, no, never mind. I don't want to reach out to this person, but everything I've done in my life, it's been a risk. It's been a risk. And like, if this risk involves me being scared for an hour or something before I reach out to get this opportunity, then I'm going to do it because again, purpose drives me, right? So I've already had this seed of being famous, like we talked about, and this opportunity is right in front of me. So I'm going to go ahead and ask, can I do this? You know, like, what do you think about this? And maybe let's not get it wrong. I've failed a lot of times. It's a part of the process. So I've, reached out to many, many opportunities and they didn't come through. But because I've done so many, all the ones that did come through, they're really great. I got to have so many and I still will continue to do so. So that's exciting.
Have you thought about like the different perspectives that you've gotten from like traveling all around the world? Like when you come down to your home roots, like here in the Valley, what type of like insight or outside do you like? You don't really realize all these things that you've learned until you like go back home, I think.
Of course, yeah.
Because you're going back home and you're like, hey, I learned this from, different people that you meet, experiences. Like, what are some of those profound lessons or insights that you've gotten from all your travels and working with different types of people?
Yeah. I would say the biggest one is my husband is from Sweden, right? And so the men in Sweden being the most amazing fathers, like so highly involved, so playful, so silly, like every single one. It's so different, right? I even take videos when I'm there because we go to a concert and instead of the moms taking care of the crying babies, if you go outside to the restroom or whatnot, it's all the dads, right?
And such a difference, right? Because the Mexican dads, they tend to be like, tráeme una cerveza or whatever.
Yeah,
so exactly. The clear
role reversals, or it's not even that, there's equal. It's very equal. It's so different from here. And just being able to trust them, like trust men men. It was very hard for me, right?
Yeah.
Having had so many boyfriends here, and then meeting my husband, I'm like expecting him to do the same things, right? But it's completely different world.
So you had to travel all the way over there to meet your husband?
No, I didn't. No, we met in North Carolina at a leadership conference.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a foreign exchange student living in California, and then I brought him here, with my Latina ways. I'm a very good salesperson.
I love that.
So I'm like, sold, come to Austin with me.
So has he also been part of seeing how the culture is down here and integrated that sort of because the Valley is known for family, right? If anything else, it's family. Did you have that in mind as you guys moved down here?
Oh yeah, we moved back because we were in Austin alone with my newborn, and I was like, no, her tias exist, and we're gonna go where her tias are, and they're gonna help me raise this child because it takes a community. I know, shout out to the tias for real. We needed that. We needed the family aspect, and I mean, being in Sweden, we weren't gonna, leave to Sweden. We did actually in the summer, but when we came back, I'm like, Valley, and we're gonna stay there until she's big enough for us to travel again, because that's the big dream for us to continue traveling and to world school our daughter.
Nice, love that. And have you tried any foods that your husband's wow, this is amazing, or anything like that? Any good spots around?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna call him out, but he always has a stomach ache.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Anytime we eat any Mexican food, it's valid. I know. He's gotten a little better, but he's gotten a little better with the spice. I mean, jalapeno, maybe. Maybe a little bit of pepper, but not very much.
Nice. You recently did a news interview, right? Have you ever been on TV before? Other than the news?
I mean, I performed in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade.
Really? You sing too?
I was a dancer at the time. I was in my college dance team, so I was on TV, national television then. I'm sure I have, but I honestly don't remember. But that's one of them. I'm like, that one for sure. But I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe in another life.
Wow, that's crazy. And what type of tips do you have for people that, because sometimes when you see somebody talking about what they do, you might not do it then. You think it over, you go about your life. But if you want to save people some time because you know that they're eventually going to come back, what might be some tips for them to get to that state of mind about being open to a life coach or just, talking it out? Because it's also therapy, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of differences as well. Coaching, you'll think of moving forward, goal oriented. There's a lot of going back as well and processing some things. But when you think of coaching, it's more a forward motion, you're ready to move forward in your life.
Right.
And yeah, I guess the seed I would plant right now is, if you're curious about it, kind of just say, it's going to sound weird, but say it out loud. Say just is this right for me?
Yes.
And I trust that you just asking that question, when we ask quality questions, we get quality answers.
Ooh, love that.
So maybe you won't get it right away, maybe you will, but it'll come to you, whether it be, you keep seeing my posts, like you said, right? Oh, she keeps posting. She's pretty good. Let me open it. And then there's a message there for you that you needed to hear that day in that moment, right? You can take that as a sign. So just say it out loud to the ethers, and then everything else I trust will flow. At least that is what happens for me and my clients.
Of course. Is there an example that you could use of maybe, you don't have to say names, but maybe where a past client was, and then after working with you, where they are now? Set an example.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, there's so many different examples, but I would say for creatives, right? One of my clients came to me with one of her struggles, and we found out, again, we go back to, what did you love to do as a child, right? Let's bring that back into your life just to start bringing some momentum, some play. Play is so important, and it's something that we do not prioritize anymore, right? Because, we're adults, we have bills to pay.
I don't have time to play.
I don't have time to play. But then what is life about, right? So playing, And for me, that's dancing. For this person, it was painting.
Oh, wow.
So they started painting again, ended up getting so much inspiration to start a TikTok channel.
Yeah.
I think millions. I don't even know what she's at right now, but she's like blowing up on TikTok hard and so incredibly fulfilled.
Wow.
Just doing what she loves. And she had not painted in years, even though she loved to do it as a child. But so that kind of difference of just like, hey, there's something stuck in my life. I'm stuck. I don't know what's going on. Let me find a way to get unstuck. I'm super called to work with you. Let's start. And then just from one of the many things we did in our time together, changed the trajectory of her future.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so cool.
From going from not painting in a while to now
years
doing it for TikTok.
Yeah, for TikTok. Yeah, blowing up on TikTok, and just my favorite thing. That's cool, the blowing up on TikTok, but that she's so fulfilled now. When you came to life coaching, when you came to life coaching, you come with the struggle, you come with the pain, right? And to go from pain to fulfillment, that's a very big leap, and you're worth it. Yeah. And your dreams are worth it. If not, you have to give up on your dreams. Of course. Life is too short for that. Ain't nobody got time for that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been wanting to do a podcast for the longest time, and I always put it back like, it's too much work, or like another day or whatever, until, I met Yvette. Talking of Yvette, what do you think of the place, Backdoor Modern Vintage?
Oh my gosh. It's a hidden gem in the Valley for sure. A must see, especially for creatives, for artists. Like, you come here, you're going to be inspired. You cannot leave this place uninspired. It's just so much going on, so much to look at, so much, it feels like so much energy, but like creative inspiration, enthusiasm, like all of that, which we want in our lives, right?
Which is actually what I was going to say. Like, when I came here, I felt so much passion and energy. So she motivated me to just do it, because she invited me to do it here, because she invites like artists to like model and take pictures. She's always having photo shoots here with her different fashions and styling and whatnot. So she told me, hey, if you want to do a podcast, let's just do it here. So, kind of the same way we're inspired. So for that person that might be listening, because you have a niche, right? There's a specific person that, like, who is that person, that person that might be listening right now, who is the ideal person to help? You mentioned Latinas. Like, if you're a Latina, who is what? Like, what's those? What is that type of person look like? What are they doing? Like, so that they're like, oh, that's me. I should go to Grecia.
Oh my gosh. Well, right now, what's on my heart? So first of all, I tune into the needs of my community on Facebook and on Instagram, see what it is they need, and I create offers around that, right? So it's constantly changing. So if I don't say you right now and you still follow me, I might have an offer if you're later for you, right? So I do want to mention that right now my latest offer is going to be for Latinas in business who know what they want, but they're struggling with like balancing their home life, being a mom or being the best wife, with being passionate about their business and trying to like raise the bottom line, trying to make some money, right? So that's primarily who I'm focused on at this time, is Latinas in business who know what they want, and they don't want to give up on their dreams because they know that they're made for that, right? Just like I did.
Of course,
exactly like that.
And what is so important about knowing what you want? Why is that key?
Because then if you're not asking for it, it will not come to you. Right. I know, I believe it's the Christian Bible that says, asking you shall receive, right? There's for me, that is true, right? Asking you shall, if you never ask for what you want, you'll never receive it. You'll never have your eyes peeled looking for that opportunity, because you're not looking for anything. So you're seeing nothing, nothing's coming.
And that's what you mentioned, right? Playing small, like, or playing big, right?
Yeah.
Like knowing what you want and reaching to get it, right?
For sure. So that'll look different for everybody, right? What is your end goal? If whatever is stopping you from here to there, and if you choose to continue to stay here every day, even though you're trying to move forward and you're kind of stuck, that's playing small. That's holding yourself back versus leaning into the discomfort of moving forward, leaning into the discomfort of growing, the growing pains, right?
You have to be uncomfortable, right?
Oh yeah, it's uncomfortable, but with a life coach, with a mentor, especially somebody who like really believes in their clients and is like they're ready to help and so excited about what they do too. The momentum is kind of like you're going on a ride together, right? So you don't have to do it alone. And then with discomfort, I'm going to help with emotion, so we'll be good.
So in a way, you're kind of like a cheerleader, like, right? You're there with them because sometimes, and I mentioned this to you earlier, sometimes we don't have that person that says, hey, I believe in you, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, you're kind of like a guide. Would you say something like that? Like a guide?
For sure. Oh, yeah. A guide.
A coach,
yeah,
right?
A coach. A life coach. For sure. And I help people balance every area of your life. You know, that's another thing is like, trying to juggle everything, that's tough because we get passionate about one thing, but how do you make sure that you're also still there for your kids, you're also present for your hubby and still like playful with your like spouse juggling. Yeah, exactly. So there are ways to do that. There are answers to all of these questions, and you can go do it yourself and do the millions of hours of research, or you can hire someone to get very specific about you and what you're experiencing and how to get from A to B for you. Right? That is what I would do as your life coach. Exactly. Right? Oh yeah, shortcut. Super worth it.
Not that it's not going to be hard work. I'm imagining it's still going to be, right? But at least you have like someone guiding you.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. I love that.
And it's fun. It's so fun.
And what is your like family, your friends, like what do they like say about like you being a life coach? Like is there, you know, because sometimes friends, family, you know, especially in the Hispanic community, they're very like playful, like life coach. Or whatever, you know? Like, have you like had any type of like positive or negative feedback about, you know, helping a lot of people?
I mean, I would say both, right? I've been doing it for 6 years, so I'm kind of like, oh, how did it feel in the beginning? I don't really remember. But now, like, I've helped my little sister and my mom heal so much. We've done a lot of healing together because they've been open to it. And other people in my family, I mean, some of them are really against it because they have very strong beliefs.
Of course.
And so because this is such a passion of mine and purpose, like I've had to do what is best for my mental health because I've gone there trying to get their acceptance, trying to get their acceptance, their approval. And it's not going to happen if they're not willing to. And I have to choose myself at the end of the day. So I've distanced myself, not to say that that's what everybody should do, but for me, that was what was best. Seriously. Wow. So, I mean, both sides. I keep the people who believe in me in my circle. It's important for me. And the people who like question me all the time or aren't, then I have to do what's best for me at the end, because what's best for me is best for my daughter. Yeah. And that's really where my biggest
your inner circle, right?
Exactly.
And I feel like what you're talking about also is like mental health. And, you know, I feel like mental health was in the conversation before 2020 because of COVID. Yeah. And then after it felt like it just sped up. You know, what do you feel is like important about this aspect of life? Like how we are now, like people are talking about it more openly about mental health and going to a therapist, having a life coach, like having a mentor. Like, has that transition been like a big experience or a big, I guess, you're getting more awareness now, I feel, because of, you know, this huge, not only just like here in the US, but all over the world, people experience this sensation of like being inside for so long and being inside with their thoughts and this like that. Yeah. Like how has that been for like, as a life coach? Yeah. I'm assuming you've gotten more people open to like giving you a message or a phone call or like being more open, like, hey, I need help.
Yeah, and I love it. I love it for us. I think it's necessary. I think it's a natural evolution of humanity is to start opening up and to start like kind of calling out what's wrong, right? Societally wrong. But I would also say like some advice that's given is like, don't vent on Facebook and don't, like show your emotions on Facebook or Instagram. I don't agree with that. I think that if people don't have a safe person to share with, I'd rather them share it and air their dirty laundry so that we know what's going on. Yeah. So we know what's going on, because worse, like at least I can reach out, and I always do. If I see something, somebody's really feeling something and they're sharing, I'm like so grateful that I found that post so that I can validate their human experience. I could be there for them, even if it's just in the comments section, right? So it's helping us to connect, even though everybody's like, don't do that, right? It looks bad on you. Like, please do that. Like, please reach out for help. And if this is the way you're reaching out for help, I see you. You know, that's important. Your human experience is important. Whatever it is, even if it's crazy or whatnot, like, we know to protect you from the husband or whatever. Like, you're telling us you need help, right? We need you to tell us.
Exactly. And, I think one of the biggest obstacles being in the Valley and being a life coach might be that we're so ingrained in our culture, especially like down here, that it's like, hide your feelings. Like, don't share that. Like, keep it locked up. Like, what do you have to say to that person that's like so bombarded with that idea?
First, that sucks. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that. Like, I had to go through that. I had to face that demon within myself so many times. I had to face that so many times. People would tell me that directly. Like, as soon as I posted something, delete it, right? Like, it's making me look bad. And I had to face a lot of that, but I got tremendous amount of healing from every childhood adversity I've ever been through because of that process. And I would do that 100 times over, because I get to live my life in service to others, versus like, and I prioritize that versus continue to play small because somebody wants me to stay in that box and not, ruin the family's name or whatever, right? And I'm like, no, I know the effects of me speaking up. And so if somebody is also experiencing that, where they hear like, don't share your emotions, but they're wanting to share their emotions, you don't have to tell anybody that you're sharing them with a therapist or a life coach, or just share it with somebody, right? And hopefully somebody that can validate, and not somebody that's going to give you advice, right? You can tell them ahead of time, like, I'm not looking for advice. I just need to be heard. Even if this sounds crazy, just please let me release it. I'm going to feel so much better afterwards. And all you have to say is, I hear you in return. So asking for that before you give your whole heart to somebody that's going to be like, you're crazy or something, like, ouch, I just gave you my whole heart. Wow.
So like, how do you do it with being a mother and being a life coach and going to these networking events? Like, how do you, I'm assuming time management is a huge part of your life.
I wouldn't say time management for me. So that's like common advice, right? Like, manage your time. For me, it's building a life that allows the spontaneity to exist, the surprises to exist. And for my small little family with my husband and my daughter, that is my husband working from home, me bringing in money as a life coach and like whatever I can, right? Like, purpose and all of that. And then my daughter being able to travel with us. We started her really young traveling. At 1 month, we took a road trip to Louisiana.
Oh, wow, that's great.
So she loves it. She always asks to go traveling and all that. So it's building a life around what you want versus, trying to, getting stuck, right? Getting stuck with, like, right now, I don't have my dream car yet. I don't have my dream home yet. Because I know the reality of, I need to save for that. I need to really work and build the strongest foundation so I'm not stuck trying to pay that, because then I can't travel, because then I can't have like so much freedom, and I value freedom right now the most because the risks that I'm taking to play big. They require me to be able to leave and go to a news station at 4 a.m. and get on the next TV show.
Get up that early? Wow.
Yeah, so it is it's a different lifestyle, but it's what works for us. So I would say everybody, and that's what we do in the Live Your Best Life strategy call, that free call that I'm talking about. What is your desired life? It's going to be so unique to you. It's probably not nada que ver with what's going on in my life, but whatever it is for you, we got to find a way to make your dreams work while your kids are thriving, while your husband is happy, or whatever, your wife is happy. And we got to make it happen.
Wow.
Nobody else will do it if you don't take the action.
What would be the most important question whenever someone comes to you and they're asking like, hey, can you help me? Can you coach me? What's that like maybe one or two questions that are like essential for you to like kind of like grasp where they are in life?
I mean, the first question I always start with is, where are you stuck? That's going to tell me already a lot of what's been weighing on them emotionally, physically. They're going to tell me everything right there. Like, this is where I'm stuck in my life, and this is where I'm wanting to move forward. So that would be the first question to journal about if you want to do it yourself tonight, right? It's like, where am I stuck in life? And just like, let the pen flow. Don't hold it back because somebody's going to see that or whatever, right? Throw it away if you need to. Yeah. But get real. Get real about what's happening in your life. Decide if you want to continue that, or if you want, like, what do you want instead of that, right? What would be your dream scenario instead? And you're going to have at least a mustard seed of faith. A mustard seed of faith, tiny, tiny seed. That's very little, right? That is possible for you. At least some of it, right? At least some of it is going to be possible for you, which means you won't be as stuck as you are. And oh my gosh, what a feeling of freedom, of joy, of just like, oh my God, thank God. Right? It's like, I'm not doing the same feelings every day.
Like
it's
not
a lot.
keeping it inside, writing it down.
Yeah, taking it out, right? Or talking to your best friend about it, or whatever is easiest for you, but getting it out there, planting the seeds outside of you.
How do you know if you're playing too small in life? Like, what are those, like, if you're like, am I playing too small? Like, what are those, like, checklist that it has to be checked?
I would say, where are you and what do you really want? Right? That's how you know if you're playing small. Are you there? Are you where you really want to be, or do you want more than that? Right? And it's okay to want more. There's like advice out there of like, you don't have, like, wanting more is bad or whatever, like desires are bad. But I say it's a conversation between you and a higher power. If you still feel this like nagging, like this vision keeps coming to me and it will not leave me alone, I would decide to trust it. At least I would lean into it and see where it takes you, right? And see if you get more, you'll know if it's taking you in the right place, if you find more glimpses of joy, more glimpses of happiness, like more light, like, oh, so much lighter. And tiny steps, but towards that bigger vision. Yeah,
wow. So when it comes to like people wanting a life coach, for those that are like thinking like, nah, I don't need it, or I don't really need her, like, I'll do it on my own. Like, what do you have to say to those people?
I mean, I did it on my own for a long time at one point because I couldn't afford it. So like, I get that. I would still take up a free call if it was, you know, I definitely did that.
Like, listen to your voice, like, hey, what's up?
If you want, like, if you're having that struggle that's on the website or whatever, you're like, okay, that is me. And maybe, it just feels like good to connect and talk to somebody about it, right? I forgot your question already.
Oh, like, for those people that are like, I don't really need her.
Oh, okay.
Like, they're like, I can do it on my own. But you kind of like...
Yeah, exactly. I would say do it on your own. And I mean, nobody's going to twist your arm about it, you know? So I trust you. I trust your body. I trust your direction. Something's leading you, and I trust that. So if it's not me and it's someone else, like, go for it. You know, I don't care. Like, I want you to live your best life. That's the ultimate goal, is everybody finding their person, finding their help. We cannot do it. I mean, we can do it alone for a little bit, but it's so much easier, so much faster, so much better for the world when we do it in community.
Of course.
For sure.
You also mentioned that for your offer right now are Latina-based women entrepreneurs who might not be where they're at right now. Or maybe they're struggling. What are some things that they could do to connect those dots?
You have to call. You have to call me now. I'm just kidding. Sorry, it's breaking up. I'm just kidding. So, what can they do for? What did you ask?
Because you said that you did it by yourself, right?
Oh yeah. Well, a little bit. So what I meant by that is I read the books that led me to the nearest life coach. At the time, life coaching wasn't a thing, right? 7 years ago when I started personal development, there was only Tony Robbins. And so I went directly to Tony Robbins. I didn't know any other life coach. I got a Tony Robbins coach. That was my very first coach. I invested $6,000 in a coach, and that was the start of it. And ever since then, I've had coaches, mentors, courses. Like, I have not stopped investing in myself. So when I say I did it alone, I mean, like, I read the books that led me to Tony Robbins.
So you got help in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was self-help. I went into the self-help industry like very hardcore.
And how did you eventually were able to work with him, right?
Yeah.
Like, were you coached and then you got to a certain level where you were like now able to like, hey, let me talk to Tony?
Oh my gosh.
Or how did that happen?
No, I would say the easiest way to answer that is everything in my life has been a surprise. Like, that's the way that everything happens in my life. I go for opportunities, but like, it doesn't come the way that I think. I did invest to meet Tony personally. And when I met him, he gave me his business card. I let him know who I was and what I was passionate about, and that I saw a lot of myself in him. And he's like, really? I would love to talk more. He gave me his business card to meet, schedule something with the assistant. Right. Nothing happened from that. And I was torn. But as soon as I walked out, one of the directors from there noticed my husband and I and started talking to us. Yeah. Super long story short, he offered us to be the social media people for the Tony Robbins tour. So it wasn't even Tony himself. It was somebody that was working the Tony Robbins tour, which is kind of separate from Tony Robbins. Though we got to get in the industry through like a random encounter that happened outside of having met Tony.
Wow. And I think they're having an event some of these days, right? Because I saw an ad. I saw an ad where it said, join us for take control of your... Something like that. It was like for 5 days, right?
Yes.
August 1st through 5th.
Yeah,
right? So is that kind of like what you guys were helping him with?
We were doing the live events. So that's the online events. I think they started doing that back then. Online events weren't like in. I mean, they weren't. It wasn't as popular. It wasn't as popular. It was more like the in-person events. But that's really cool that they're doing it online. I mean, the more help out in the world, the better, for sure. Nice. So that's awesome. More accessible to a lot of people.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And I was going to ask if we could have your husband join you for the last few minutes of the podcast.
He would love that. Yeah, good thing.
Is that possible?
I dressed him today. I'm just kidding.
I want to ask you guys. I think you can have.
I'll flop down right here.
Yeah, I think we can hear you.
This is my husband.
There you go. So, can you tell us a little bit about like what it was like during the time when you guys met each other? Like, was it like love at first sight, or how did that go about?
For me, it was. No, but it really was one of those like movie moments where it was a conference with 20,000 people. We went into a separate area afterwards.
Can I say something right here?
Yes.
In the 20,000 people, I looked around and I said, my future husband is here.
Wow.
I said that. He was there. Wow. So crazy. That's amazing. and then
how did it go about? How did
I was with some friends, and it was literally like we were in this room with maybe, I think it's fine where it's at.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, if you guys want to grab it, that's fine too.
I can.
Okay, I'll hold it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Okay. This is an
improv session.
Yeah.
So it was a separate like location afterwards for the big arena session, and maybe 500 people or so. And it was literally like I just saw this clear path between all these people, and I saw
the clouds moving.
Yeah, the clouds just spread out, and I'm like, oh wow. So
you went like that.
And I was like, damn.
Probably dancing or something.
Yeah. No. So for a little bit, So there was a lot of promotions and stuff going on. My friends and I were just being silly in the back, and everyone was clapping hands, and we were kind of doing a last clap challenge type of thing where we were just being silly and trying to get the last clap. Nice. And all of a sudden, someone from the front starts to join in. I'm like, okay, what? Oh no, wait, it's her. So she joined in.
That was like, last clap. I'm very competitive.
Yeah, very competitive. So we still haven't fully established who won, but it was me.
I think you won.
According to my story, it is.
So what is it like to have a life coach as a partner?
It's very inspiring. I mean, because it's not like I listen into the calls, right? There's definitely the client controversy, or what do you call it?
Not controversy. Controversy. El chismoso.
Yeah, so I'm not listening to the calls, but I get to experience everything else around it, right? Because she does a lot of work around the calls. It's not like she's on just that call and that's it. But she does a lot of preparations for the calls, and she bounces ideas around, and we talk about things that are happening. And so
not with my clients, just to be clear, for the record. Things that are happening, like for offers and stuff like that. He helps me a lot with the inspiration behind that.
Nice.
So it's just, I mean, I've been a witness to her journey this whole entire time. Wow. And I mean, anytime I have things going on, I have someone to talk to, and I don't have to pay.
He does pay in different ways. He pays the bills.
I pay the bills. I cook food.
Oh, that's lovely.
No, but yeah, I mean, it's amazing. It's inspiring. I find myself, I consider myself incredibly lucky just to have that resource like next to me all the time. Anytime I have anything going on for me, it's like I have someone to talk to, and I get amazing tips and advice.
You're on that Grecia train.
I know.
There she goes.
Tooting my horn.
That's so funny. Yeah. So I know that there's a lot of like guys out there, including myself, where we're like we want our dream partner, right? Mm-hmm. Like, what do you have to say to that guy that's like single and like looking for that partner? Like, is there any piece of advice? Is it like work on yourself and you'll eventually find it?
I think you hit it on the nail.
Yeah,
I was gonna say.
Like, he would say exactly that.
Yeah. First of all, of course, get clear on what it is you want, right? And I mean, if it's to the point where it's like, if you're sure, if it's like, oh, I like brunettes and I like Latinas and I like life coaches, like if you want to get that clear, you
get very niche.
Get really niche to get, because then when she does come around, you know where that's her.
You can just go to a Latina life coaching networking event and surround yourself with a photographer.
But that's only part one of two parts, right? Second part is you got to make sure that you work on yourself, because if you've only been focusing on finding her, and then you find her, and you didn't spend a second on yourself, then when you approach, she goes, who is this douche? You missed your shot, you know what I mean? So you got to make sure that she's the person she's looking for too.
Love that.
Like you're the person
she's looking for too.
And do you feel like also as on the other side, as a female, do you feel like you have to work on yourself before you encounter your partner? Is it like the same for both?
Definitely, but I also want to say not to the extreme. So I have a lot of clients who will come to me and be like, I'm not ready completely, or that the partner has to be completely healed. Mm-hmm. We heal in relationships. That's why having a life coach is very healing, because you're not healing alone. You heal with other person, right?
Of course.
So in relationships, you want to have a little bit of the background of self-help or having your own life coach or whatever. Hopefully they will too. And it's often the case. It's strange nowadays that, my clients will find this boyfriend that already had a life coach, and it's so cool because then they're on the same path, of working on themselves. So when they come together and then that relational trauma happens, right? You get to work through it together. You bring a little bit of what you learned and a little bit of what he learned. And I mean, that's been our relationship for the last 6 years, and it's been really beautiful. We were not perfect at all when we first met. We had our own traumas and stuff.
We're still not perfect, but we
very close. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, but we are. I mean, I love him a lot.
That's awesome. That's lovely, guys.
Best friend too, and it's like the willingness to change.
Of course.
That the relationship is more important than your ego, or that
set it aside.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You have to want it more than you want to stay the same.
Mm-hmm.
So for those guys and girls that might be listening and they're like, hey, I want to work on myself, this is the perfect opportunity to give Grecia a call. you know, life coach.
For sure. And
Love
it's
that.
women. Okay, guys and women. Girls are under 18.
Man and woman. Right. My bad. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect.
I know,
either.
but now it's not only you, it's everybody on this podcast we know.
Of course.
Now we know.
It's established.
Love that.
Good.
So
For sure.
one of the questions I want to ask you guys is, obviously now you guys are living in the RGV. One of the popular sayings down here is Puro 956.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you guys? Or Grecia, because you're
Yeah, I
more.
was gonna say that's a cool question. I haven't thought about that at all. But I'll come with an answer soon.
What does Puro 956 mean to you? Or like, what is it?
I
What is
think it's pride for having, I mean, for me, it's like for the culture that we've built down here, like being so close to Mexico, but also being Texan and American. Like, it's very, very specific. Like, you know, when
Very
someone's
niche.
from the Valley, it's very niche. You know, when someone's from the Valley, everybody knows. Like, when I went to college in San Marcos and we're from the Valley, like, we see Valley people. We know Valley people.
Yeah.
So I think Puro 956 is just like, it's the pride that comes through from the way we were raised for our community and the growth, right? Like, we've grown a lot and there's a lot of acceptance of who we are down here.
Yeah.
And hopefully we continue to grow because there's still...
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And I ask that to all my guests because it's very interesting
I love
to
that.
get like the different perspectives of like, you know, all walks of life.
sure.
So as my last question, is there anything that you have on your chest that you'd like to share? Anything that's on your mind to the people that are hearing or watching on YouTube?
Yeah. I would say, I mean, I come with a very bubbly personality, and you'll find this personality when I do like group coaching and stuff. For private coaching, I mean, I'm going to meet you where you are. So I'm not going to be super bubbly. If you're coming with heavy emotions, that's going to be highly respected, and we're going to meet you there. So I just want to like to put that on the record, because I'm like, oh, they're probably going to be thinking I'm like always bubbly, and I will be if that's appropriate for the time.
Of course.
But at the same time, like, we get real, you know, we get real, and it's very important to get real.
Of
So
course.
just wanted to put that out there because I get it. I've been there, and
course.
I don't want them to think, oh, like it's too big of a jump to be that bubbly. Like I'm nowhere near that, right?
Yeah.
But I'll meet you where you are. It's important to meet you where you are. So.
And I'm glad you brought that up because you are very good at talking and communicating your ideas. So you bring like a bright essence, energy. So I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, sometimes people do need to, you know, get deep in their feelings. So thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah, thanks for giving us the space for sure. And I'm sure he has something to say. Like, watch. What are you gonna say?
What she said.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to say. I get an hour too, right? An hour? I'm just kidding.
Hour, your turn.
I get an hour for my conclusion. I would just say, you know, it gets scary sometimes, especially when we need change. That's when it's like when we feel the lowest, and everything feels like it's the hardest. And then usually also change feels most difficult too. At least it's been like that for me. So I just want to come with that little. If you're on the fence and you're just like, you know, everyone says the water feels real good. I'm just gonna come with that little gentle kick in your butt and just like try it out. You know, jump in.
It hurts at first.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little shock to the body, but then it's just a few
But I'm
seconds.
also the floaties that you wear on your arms. I'm like, I got you.
I got you. You're
That's
safe.
awesome.
Yes, it's safe. And especially like if you're at the point where like you feel like it can't get worse, well then know that taking any step in any direction will only get better.
Love that.
So like take a step.
I do want to add one extra question. For those that have never met anyone from Sweden, how do you like what do you need to tell people about Swedish people? Like for those that are like, I've never met someone who's Swede, like
For sure.
like what are those like things? Because you mentioned that you guys are very playful as parents. Like for those that have no idea about Sweden, like what's Sweden like?
I can go on and on. We eat tacos on Friday. Swedish tacos, that's the thing. Everyone drives a Volvo.
A lot of people.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I mean, the Swedish culture is very different than one I'm experiencing here.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. Like the culture, like
so, like if you're coming in as like a sort of an outsider, it can be Swedes can be kind of hard-shelled up front. Like if you go into a grocery store and you strike up a conversation with someone, most likely they'll look at you like, I don't know you, and they will just walk away. Like it's kind of like that. It's like strange. But then when you get in to the like inside a circle of friends, then you'll be best friends forever. Like my best friends are the guys that went to school when I was 6 years old.
Wow.
And
Love
we
that.
still have the best relationships.
Longevity.
Even though we don't talk all the time, like
Yeah.
as soon as we get back to Sweden, like it's like we pick up as right where we left off.
I love that.
And I treat everyone like a best friend over there. So they're like, I'm like, okay, I guess we're best friends.
Yeah,
I'm
for
like,
sure.
I'm my best friend.
Yeah. So it's a brotherhood, sisterhood. Like we get really close.
Yeah, forever.
Love that.
Like
Yeah.
a forever bond.
We're gonna have to do a podcast just with.
I know, yeah, for sure.
Talk
He's
about
ready.
Sweden.
The only Swede I know is this soccer player called Zlatan.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course.
Of
Yeah,
course.
he's a little retired now, right? But
Right,
he
right.
was more of a king than our actual king there
Oh,
for
that's
a while,
funny.
for sure.
That's
yeah.
hilarious.
As long as when you interview him, I get my spotlight in the
Of
end.
course. Yeah,
You'll get
Yeah.
in, yeah, for sure.
It's almost our birthday too.
Oh, when's your
Our
birthday?
birthdays.
Oh,
2
the
weeks apart.
anniversary.
No.
Oh, no, your birthday same month.
His birthday and then
Oh,
my
close.
birthday.
It's like 2
Oh,
weeks.
wow.
August
We're both
26th
Virgos.
and September.
Wow. Hey, my birthday's September
Oh yeah, but
Okay.
Libra.
24th.
I remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. I'm just kidding.
Well, thank
I
you.
love Libras. Just for the
good,
record.
good, yeah.
I'm like,
Thank you. Imagine all the Libra like, no, I'm not gonna call her.
They're like, oh, I was about to
Just
click.
kidding. No, like I told you, 80%, 80, like pretty much 80% are Libras
Yeah?
of my clients.
Yeah,
and I
that's
love it. I don't know what it is. I'm going to figure it out. Why?
Maybe because we're like trying to balance our life.
Oh, there you go.
That is
makes
that
sense.
is
Mind
the
blowing.
that is the scale is the sign, right?
That's right.
Wow, I love
That's
it.
right.
All right, cool.
They read that
Mystery
niche,
solved.
Well, thank you so much for making the time to come all the way to Weslaco. I know you guys are on the other side of the valley.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
coming all the way over here means a lot.
Yeah.
And finally being able to like work together and do something together since the longest time. It's
know.
been amazing. Thank you for
Thanks
coming.
so much for
Both of
having
you.
us. It's been so fun, and I'm excited to do this more, to do all the things with you
Of
more
course,
because you're awesome.
I'm just getting started.
exactly, and so are we.
Hey.
Let's go.
Let's
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.